because true awakening isn't what they say out there. It's not. It is when you are completely lost, giving up hope, and nowhere to turn, and no one to have this sounding board. Lost and alone is what I felt. Lost and alone. And I didn't know why. Because I didn't have me. Hi, welcome to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Monique. I help intuitive individuals overcome everything that comes with your awakening experience. I help you step into empowerment, remember self, and activate your abundance template. I do this through very specific tools I have learned through my own remembrance and journey as a starseed. Okay, so my spiritual awakening, and keep in mind, when you awaken, it's not really like you just have an awakening and then we're awakened and then we're out there being a guru and we're selling all of the templates and the bloody PDFs and all of the things. It's actually just a remembrance that begins and then it doesn't end. But it reaches a point when you are, say, so far into your awakening. So let's just clarify, when you are born, you begin your remembrance, okay, until you possibly cross over. So we have started it already. But the point that everyone's saying, this is my awakening, is probably at the point that you were needing to expand yet again and you weren't wanting to make choice of changing your life or changing the way that you think or the people in your life. And so what was happening with me in particular with my journey was I ran a successful hair and beauty company, and I pulled over on the side of the road one day because I just thought, oh my God, I am so sad. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I really believe that this was the beginning of something amazing, but truly the end of something that I didn't want to let go of. And that, my friends, was the identity that I was holding on to. I didn't know that I was holding on to it, but I didn't know really what was going on. Now, this was a frame within my awakening. So let's just clarify again. People are saying that they're awakening and then they're becoming gurus and they're doing all the things. They're not under the understanding that it is a never-ending thing. It is infinite. And so this one that we are in right now was just a frame of it that I was Googling and realized, oh, this is an awakening. But with all of the information that I have downloaded since then, I have been led to believe from my higher self and all of those that are a part of me is that it was just a part in our world that we didn't want to release. So I had to release what I was doing within my business, and I had to step within the spirituality and sharing all that I was, all of the wisdom that I held within my body, within my DNA, within the consciousness. And I had no idea what this even meant. Like, I had no idea. But after I went through the series of events, I started to work out, so these things that I thought was my personality, these were actual like criterias that you had to have, I suppose, to, set foot into this mission, which one of them was just like knowing, giving and receiving. And this is where I met myself, where I was always disappointed from people and I needed to let them go, is because the giving and receiving wasn't even. And so this humanitarian vibe about me was really in the forefront of everything that I was doing. I was very much a giver. I was always listening. I always, wanted to help people. And yes, it may have been in the beginning from like a trauma or something, that I was trying to figure out, but this was all a part of that awakening. I was trying to awaken to there was nothing wrong with me. Everything was perfect, in perfect alignment, in perfect timing. Even though my human was in utter chaos, nothing seemed perfect. And I began the journey of depression, of deep sadness and longing to go home. I felt homesick majority of my life, and I just couldn't get a grasp on where home was. And so therefore I found myself attaching to different people and things and houses and any kind of tangible thing I was attaching myself to because I didn't understand myself. And this is where I am right now with helping the whole entire world, is I feel to where I am right now. I'm very proud. I'm in alignment to where I need to be in this present moment. And everything that I have understood and downloaded and transmuted, transcended, all of the things is now, all of us are saying in this channel, we need to get this out to the world because there are more people like me than there are not. But we are afraid that y'all are being taken down the wrong path right now. We're learning maybe not the purest form of what an awakening is. And we want to take you on that journey and say, listen, if you are deeply sad, if you've got anxiety, OCD, or any kind of attachment, then you may be on the journey that I was on. And I really want to take you through some of those series of events so that we can try and, align ourselves to what is going on a bigger play, and then we can move forward. It's truly, when I was looking for this in my early 20s, I wish there was somebody like me that I could have just latched onto and be like, I trust you. Tell me all of the things. So through that awakening journey and through that longing to go home and this misunderstanding with myself and misinterpretation of what life actually was, I met myself down this way. I should be okay. I should be grateful. I'll just earn this amount of money and then this holiday and then this and this and this. Every time I came back from holidays, it was like the holiday blues, but it was worse. Like, it wasn't just holiday blues. And so therefore I came up against people that just weren't understanding me. That they were like, that's just normal holiday blues. And I'm thinking, no, like, your holiday blues are something where you feel sad because you're back at work and maybe you don't like a job, blah, blah, blah. But like, mine was that, and a sense of not belonging, and that I was destined for so much more. And this isn't like a separation thing of like, I was deserving of more and other people weren't. It wasn't even based on that. I truly wasn't even thinking about anybody else. I was just thinking about me. And this is where you and I are going to really start to form a bond, is because I know you're in the exact same position, in that we're not even thinking about anyone else. We're only thinking about ourselves, and we're thinking about, how do we find fulfillment? How do we fulfill our mission and our purpose here? And this is where the journey truly began, is once I started to really start to research any of this kind of stuff. And back when I was doing it, there wasn't a lot, like, social media wasn't that big. Like, it was, but not on these topics. So I felt like I went through my awakening, my dark night of the soul, and also the ego death alone. And maybe that's a part of my personality as well, as I am much like an animal. I'll take myself off to the woods to die. Like, I don't really want to cry and be the victim with anyone in my life, because I really did know that they didn't understand where I was at or what I was going through. I mean, they weren't at all spiritual. They didn't even think about synchronicities or coincidences or angel numbers or an inner knowing. Like, they didn't know the gut feeling. I was surrounded with people that didn't even believe in the bare basics of spirituality. So I was lost. I was alone. I was surrounded by people that didn't understand me, didn't understand spirituality, didn't understand themselves in turn. Because if you don't understand spirituality, then you can't understand yourself, because that is literally the essence of who you are. And I wasn't who I was back then. Like, let's be real. Like, right now, I am an embodied version of unconditional love. And we are here, my whole team, to support you as you go through this. But back then, when I hadn't tamed my ego, and yet I was coming into all of this information and I was not channeling it, or perhaps I was and I didn't even know, I don't know. And so my ego was not tamed. And so what I started to do was what anybody does, I suppose. Well, maybe it's just me, I'm not too sure. But what I started to do was I started to notice a lot of the things that people were doing. I started to notice how they didn't care about me. Again, my ego was not tamed, okay? It was all about me. It was a very sad time. Let's not get that twisted. I'm putting a joking manner on it, but it was a very, very sad and lonely experience. And nobody cared about me. And so what I began to do was get rid of everybody. I could see their true colors. I saw through them. And I just thought, there's no point in me even giving to them and trying to be better and to do things for them, because they're not asking for it. They don't even see me. So why would I bother? So I literally just put my hands up and I surrendered. I was like, I'm done. And this is where that other video I did on the surrendering is so important, is because I didn't do anything, and I probably should have. Gone into trust, but go and watch the video as well and you will learn something from it. But what I did was I got rid of everybody. Block, 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 block. You bet you. Delete, 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 delete. And I was alone. But it was no different to what I felt inside anyway. It didn't even matter if they were there or they weren't there, because I was all alone internally anyway. And so now I just had the stories of these people talking about me. Why did she do this? Why did she do that? Do you think anyone reached out to ask me why or anything? No, not at all. It really showed me everything. Yes, then I went on this journey to heal all of that and work out like why. So it was like an awakening, like tenfold, right? I was working out like where these issues were coming from, deep within my DNA and within my soul. But I got rid of literally everyone from my life. And maybe that was the victim that I needed to be, was just this lonely person where I could truly just say no one cares about me. And you could see that no one cared. Like maybe I was looking to see it for myself, that nobody cared, because I sometimes we do things where we just want to see it. We feel it so deeply and we just want to see it. And so this is where self-sabotage comes in, is because we do things so that we can see it with our own eyes. And what I noticed was, well, yeah, I was alone, and everything that I felt and knew of truth was literally looking me dead in the eye that it was of truth. They didn't care and they didn't come running. And I still, to this very day, in 2025, I still have not heard from them. That is the craziest thing ever, right? But like, as I am who I am today, like I can look back and I can see why, like how it all came in to like soul contracts and soul plays and the characters that we were playing and what I was teaching them and what they were teaching me. And so in turn of me doing the healing, I guess it like, somewhat frees them as well. And this is what I want you to understand, is once you do the healing, not only do you free yourself, but you free them. And you have to do that because that's true forgiveness. That's true unconditional love to be able to do that, right? Otherwise, if you don't, you'll just end up in a cycle, because what if they need to be doing something for you and they're not doing it? And, we just all need to help each other out, I suppose. But yeah, so I was just all alone, right? And now I could truly be that victim. Well, from there, I went on to have a child. And these are the main plays that I'm going through, okay? So you can truly understand it. Okay, so I had already like lost myself. I didn't really know where I was at, what I was doing, and now I was having a baby. Well, my daughter that came through was the very thing that I needed. I can look back and see that now, but at the very time, it was a very lonely time. Oh my gosh, I can feel it as I'm talking about it. The first 2 weeks of her life were so incredible. Like, I finally had another version of me and somebody to just love, right? But what I then went on to discover was she was there to be a mirror. And all of the wounds that began to come up were huge. So I thought I was doing the right job and like healing and doing all the things. But what Frankie was showing me was that I hadn't dealt to things with my parents. I hadn't dealt to, say, like mother wounds. And I began to grieve for her. I began to grieve that she wasn't going to have the grandparents that I once wished for her. She wasn't going to have the relationships that I didn't get and I wanted her to have. And so yet we look at it from a logical point of view. She doesn't know what she doesn't know. And so therefore she truly was my mirror to show me that I hadn't healed so much in me. And so that's the journey that I went on with Frankie. And from there, it was like a good year that I sat at home and I didn't really leave. I didn't leave, and this social anxiety got worse and worse and worse. The more I didn't leave, the bigger leaving became. And I had really hit rock bottom And bless Frankie, she is just honestly the most amazing little girl. Like, she has been my mom through this whole situation. Like, she's learned everything on her own. You know, at times when I was inside and I was, you know, so sad, she was so little and she would just open the book, and I just thought she was so smart. She would turn the pages and she would sit there all alone. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, you're a real introvert. Well, I know Frankie now, and she is not an introvert. She's not. She was teaching me and she was showing me, and I just had to start from bare minimum. I was this sad, lonely, depressed mom awakening, and this might be you, or you might not even have kids, and maybe it's just the job. I'm trying to meet you where you're at. It's either the job where you feel unfulfilled or being a mom, or maybe it's something else. Where you've met yourself at this grand awakening, where you're coming home to yourself and coming back into your empowerment and coming back into your remembrance and activating all of your abundance template so that we can live in harmony and joy. But I remember Spirit one day very specifically. I didn't know that this is what it was. But I had this thought that came in, and it was just like, go for a walk. And I really didn't want to go for a walk. I was a little bit overweight, and I didn't want to go for a walk because my weight didn't matter. I knew that I looked different, but I just didn't want to leave. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't even want to smile at anyone, but then I didn't want to be forced of being that sad mum around Frankie either. I just wanted to be in my own comfort, and so that I could just feel it and just see what was going on, but nothing was happening. And so what Spirit said was just go for a walk. And one day I plucked up the courage and I went. I made it outside of the gate. I went down the road, and it wasn't very far. I think it was all of 50 meters. And I was bored. And so what I did was I come back. And then I think another few days went by, and I just kept doing it, and I got further and further and further. And one day it just sunk in that this is what was happening, was that I was grieving old self. But the way that I was doing it with now being a mom is I was grieving myself prior to children. And that is huge. But what I want you to understand is you don't have to have kids to go through that of loss of identity and recreating yourself. Like, you're probably doing that right this very moment, where your life is crumbling around you. And yes, I had not the excuse, but like the blame of, well, I'm a new mom and maybe postnatal depression and all of these things. But it really was the loss of identity of who I was. And this is exactly what you're going through this awakening, because you are remembering who you actually are. And that is a new identity. That is a new template. And as we release this and everything that's attached to it is so much bigger than what people are talking about on the internet. Yes, we can see that people are glorifying it. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the depths of our emotions as we're going through this loss of identity. And again, I wasn't who I am now. So bear with me as I try and explain this and going back in time. Usually my channeling is very, very quick. But as I'm trying to go back into memory, sometimes it takes a little bit, right? Because I've got to get into that emotion of remembrance. And I remember feeling like I had totally lost myself. And so I found myself looking at photos in my phone. Whew. And boy, oh boy, I found just one photo. And Nicholas, my husband, will remember this. And I was looking at myself and I just could not stop crying. I was uncontrollably crying. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I was beautiful." Oh, I was beautiful. And he said, "You still are." I'm going to pause this and I'm going to come back. So he said, "You still are." And I could witness, yes, I was, absolutely. But it was that version that I didn't appreciate. I didn't see her until I was over in this ascension or awakening or knowing or whatever you want to call it. And it was when I was in this, which is like just present moment, I did not see my beauty. You know, the one where I was talking about where I was sad, I was ungrateful, I was unfulfilled, those things. Well, I was now looking back in that moment and I'm like, oh my God, you were beautiful. You literally had everything, like everything. And I just began to cry, just cry and cry and cry. And it was just the release that I needed. And as you all know, you go through these huge events and you learn so much about yourself. And what I learned in that moment in my life and within my awakening was the present moment. When you start to embody that and you feel it, and I ought to, ask you, please do it. Go back through your photos and see when you were in that moment, when you're on that holiday and, possibly you didn't realize how good it was at the moment because you were thinking about work or you're thinking about something else, and go back into that moment and learn the art of presence and in that moment and intention, because this is something that's gone on to change my whole entire life. This is a part of my whole awakening story, y'all. And it doesn't end. This is just kind of like part 1. So remember to subscribe and follow, because I'm going to do many and many parts of these awakenings, because it's been huge. And yes, it's propelled me so far, but I want to teach you all how to do it and let you know that it's completely normal to go through these things. And so anyway, I was this new version of me looking at myself going, oh my God. From that moment, I began to listen to Xavier Rudd and another beautiful artist. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. And I would listen to these songs over and over and over and over again. And then I would listen to 528 Hertz, and I'd listen to that on replay for hours on end. And I didn't understand what was going on. I was like, I'm just going to listen to 528 Hertz because surely this is going to help me. It literally says DNA healing. And I know that there is something wrong in my DNA, because my life didn't suggest that it should feel the way that I had been feeling. And so I was listening to 528 Hertz. I then found an app. I think it was called Affirmations. There's no gig with this either. There's no commission or anything. I'm just telling you everything that I did because I really want to help you. And I downloaded this app, Affirmations, at the time. And one of them I just really liked. And this is all out in the public now anyway, you can find different affirmations. But I was back in the dark ages, right? And there was this affirmation, I am worthy. And I remember looking at I am worthy. And I was like, oh gosh, I really don't feel worthy. But I kept saying it and saying it and saying it. And in the mirror. And one day, I said to myself, oh my God, you are worthy. And from that moment, I learnt the art of integration and embodiment. But with who I was, of birthing this new consciousness onto this planet, I began to really think about, well, if there was, the speed of light, then why did it take me so long to do that? If things were the speed of light, surely you could rewire yourself in the present moment, integrate it and embody it. Really at the max, it should take 2 weeks. In my mind, I was thinking this should be a really quick process. How do we get that into a more of a timely manifestation? And this is what I learned, and this is what I teach and have developed, is because I, as a starseed, had to endure it and figure my way out of that dark hole. And whilst I was figuring it out, I was realizing everything. Once I'd learned about my thoughts being my higher self, ding, ding, ding. I was sitting on the couch one night and I heard it again. It was just a thought, but I had heard it this time. My clairaudient, it was like, your thoughts are you. And I was like, my thoughts are me. Yeah, of course. But then I had this feeling of it because it had been embodied. And so I'm saying to you, your thoughts are you, right? And you're logically like, yeah. But once you embody it, you're like, oh my God, my thoughts are me? My higher self me? Yes. And then that is when I learned the art of trust. So then I went on this trust. Now, meanwhile, this whole awakening, right, and this is only part 1, it was huge. And then I learned the art of trust. What did trust mean? How could I trust her? And then from there, I began to transmute all of the abandonment and the betrayal and all of the things that I was coming up against, because she was telling me things, but I was looking at something different. I'm looking at them going, but they're really nice, they're this, they're that, and that was my ego self looking at it. And she would tell me things, and as I plucked up the courage to listen to her every single time, the truth would always prevail. This is when trust and truth I really lent into, and I just know that sharing these stories and all of my YouTube channel, it's going to help, even though people don't necessarily believe in this stuff, or you might have someone in your life that doesn't believe in it. You know what I've learned is that it is real, it is truthful, and I've been in the game for far too long now to think anything else. Some of the wisdom that comes through, that isn't Monique. That can't be Monique. She's too silly. So I know that the truth will always prevail. People will work out that their spirituality, their essence is actually who they truly are, and it wasn't the identity that they gave themselves, because that was the identity that we were disappointed about. That was me back when I first started, and I was almost disappointed that I wasn't following my truth. I wasn't helping people. I wasn't passing on the messages. I wasn't doing the healing. I wasn't doing any of it. Yes, I was in turn, and it all played a role of doing the hair and beauty and then doing my remedial massage, but it wasn't what I was meant to be doing, right? And so I felt it within me that it was time to push it away and step into the new identity, which is like everything but nothing all at one time. And when I started to go on that kind of journey of, say, stage 2 of awakening, that was the integration of my oversoul. And this is when so much more was coming in that I had to transmute from other lifetimes. And that is a whole nother video. So I'm going to do that in another video. So stay tuned. But I guess my initial awakening, as y'all call it, was very, very sad. I honestly felt like somebody had died and nobody could pick up on what it was. People tried to send me to the doctor. Then they said it was postnatal depression. And then they just kept saying all these things that were already out in the public. And I'm sorry, and I know people tried to help me. But let me say this. We know the truth inside. And I knew that it wasn't these things. I was smart enough to know that. And this isn't any, accusation against anyone. And it probably could be, many things at one time. Maybe you all say, well, it was postnatal depression. Well, maybe it was an awakening too. And maybe it was a remembrance. And maybe it was a transmuting effect that was happening. Like maybe there were multiple purposes to one given experience. Now that is the truth. But I was no longer playing in the third dimension of that truth, which was postnatal or whatever it was. I was awakening to bigger and larger understandings, and it was within that moment that now I understand of what was happening. But at the time, I was like, no, you don't understand. But it was just that they didn't have the higher understanding of what I needed. But if I had me now to explain it, my younger self would be like, yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. I don't think I'm feeling depressed, but I don't think I'm depressed. I didn't go on any medication because this is how I truly felt. I knew that there wasn't anything wrong deep. I knew that I could overcome this. I had a really strong mind. I mean, as you all do, every single person on the whole entire planet does. If we want something, we go and get it. So I love you so much. If you are experiencing any of this, where it's a loss of identity, a realization, unfulfilled, looking for your mission, looking for purpose in life, looking for larger understandings to what the hell is going on in this planet, on the planet as well. You, all of you, I have the answer for you. And we're going to keep just sharing this wisdom through my journey, but through my teachings, and you're going to find the answer within something that I share. I know you are. So I love you so much. If you loved this video, please leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And thumbs up, like it. And I love you so much, okay? Don't ever forget that. You're never alone, I promise. I wish I could go back and do that, which I have. That's a part of healing, is you go back and do it. But everything has a way of evolving and moving and bringing you to this very moment now with me here, healing, transmuting. I hope you can feel it. And if you have shed a layer today and you feel free, let me know, because true awakening isn't what they say out there. It's not. It is when you are completely lost, giving up hope, and nowhere to turn, and no one to have this sounding board. Lost and alone is what I felt. Lost and alone. And I didn't know why, because I didn't have me. But I can be that for you now. But what I mean is, I didn't have me, as in I didn't have my higher self back then, and I wish I had her. So, let me know how you go, and I'll see you soon. I really do think it's going to help you. I just feel like I am just so honest, and I just want to tell you about like what I truly feel. Like my personality is going to come out, and you get like the real version on what it was like to come back home to myself, to meet myself again. And where I actually met myself was at the dumps of nothing. So what I really struggled with the most was the labeling. There was starseed, which then came into Pleiadian. There was a light worker. There is an intuitive. And there was just something within my body, within my being, that just wouldn't align with a very specific wording. Now, I believe we can be parts of every single thing. We don't have to be one. We don't have to just be a light worker. We don't have to be just a starseed. We don't have to be just freaking anything, right? And this is what I struggled the most with. I was like, but I just want to be me, wholesome me. And this is why I went on this journey of my heart and listening to my own being and birthing this new consciousness, because I really believe it's going to actually help so many thousands, if not millions of people across the world. Because if you're like me and just a realist in remembering who you are, then you might be struggling with the wording as well. You may be like me thinking that feels a little bit like separation, and there is no separation. Yes, you can have parts of all of self, and you may have a remembrance of being in the Pleiades or being somewhere in another star system or here as a light worker. But me in particular, I don't want to identify with anything, because I just want to be wholeheartedly me.